For decades, it was Hollywood's most whispered feud, two action icons, one bitter rivalry, and a silence that lasted over 30 years. But now, at 64, Jean-Claude Van Damme is finally done holding back. What he just revealed about Steven Seagal isn't just shocking, it's brutal. The muscles from Brussels versus the martial arts master, fans thought they knew the story. But behind the movie posters and red carpet smiles was a hidden war. A battle of egos, betrayal, and moments that nearly turned violent. So why did Van Damme stay silent all these years? And what finally pushed him to speak out? The truth is darker than anyone expected. Stay with us, because what you're about to hear will rewrite everything you thought you knew about the legends of action cinema. By the early 1990s, action ruled the video store shelves, and two names stood above the rest like cinematic giants, Jean-Claude Van Damme and Steven Seagal. If you were renting martial arts movies back then, it wasn't a matter of if you'd see them, it was which one you'd pick first. Jean-Claude Van Damme wasn't just an action star, he was a spectacle. With his signature spinning kicks, emotional intensity, and ballet-like athleticism, Van Damme redefined what it meant to be a martial arts hero. He broke out with Bloodsport, a film that didn't just make him famous, it made him a legend. Then came Kickboxer, where his heartfelt performance and brutal training montages captured fans worldwide. But Van Damme wasn't done. Universal Soldier pushed him into high-concept sci-fi action alongside Dolph Lundgren, and Time Cop proved he could carry big-budget Hollywood thrillers. By the mid-90s, he wasn't just a fighter on screen, he was a full-blown movie star. But Steven Seagal was very different. He fought in a calm, smooth, and dangerous way. He used Aikido, a martial art that focused on joint locks, wrist throws, and controlling opponents without having to punch or kick them. His first movie, Above the Law, showed a new kind of martial arts hero who was serious and deadly. The next one was Hard to Kill. Then Under Siege, in which Seagal played a Navy cook who fights terrorists on a battleship, became his biggest hit and made him a mainstream star. Both Van Damme and Seagal were kings in their own worlds. They didn't just star in action movies, they defined action movies for a generation of fans. Kids looked up to them and practiced their moves in front of the TV, but something was missing. Even though they were the biggest martial arts stars of their time, they never worked together. Fans didn't know why, but the two video store kings were already avoiding each other. Soon, the truth about their secret rivalry would start to get out. At first, everything seemed fine, magazines, TV shows, and interviews kept the focus on their movies, and no one got angry at awards shows. But behind the scenes, tension was already beginning to build, and it didn't come out. Steven Seagal liked to say mean things about other martial artists. He never called anyone out by name, but if you paid close attention, you could figure out who he was talking about. In interviews about other martial artists in Hollywood, Seagal made jokes about actors who think ballet makes you a fighter. To an outsider, this might have sounded like an insult, but insiders knew exactly who he was talking about. Jean-Claude Van Damme had trained in ballet as part of. During his early martial arts training, he often talked about how ballet helped him with his balance, flexibility, and strength. But Seagal didn't care about that. He used ballet to make Van Damme look weak in the eyes of martial arts fans. Calling him just a dancer was a planned insult, even though Seagal never said Van Damme's name in these interviews. It was always said in the same tone that other martial artists in Hollywood weren't real fighters, and the guy with the spinning kicks and ballet training was usually the target. Stunt coordinators, producers, and martial arts choreographers started to talk about it. They knew Seagal didn't respect Van Damme as a martial artist, an actor, or a man, and they knew that feeling was starting to spread behind the scenes. One producer later said that even if the public didn't know what was going on, Hollywood insiders could feel the tension between the two stars growing. What was surprising was that Van Damme didn't respond, not in interviews, on red carpets, or even in movie roles. He just kept working, training, and focusing on making the next big hit movie. To many fans, it looked like Van Damme didn't care what Seagal thought, but insiders knew the truth. Damme heard the insults but chose not to answer them, at least not yet. Even so, people who worked with both of them, especially stunt men in fight. People in Hollywood told each other to stay away from each other because trouble could happen if they were at the same party, on the same set, or even at the same event. There were no public fights or screaming matches, but everyone could feel the tension. This was the start of what people would later call the Silent War. There were no insult-filled tabloid headlines or interviews, just quiet hostility between two of the biggest martial arts stars in the world. Fans were arguing about who was better, but the other didn't exist. Soon, that silent war would break out in a way that no one saw coming, the legendary party at Stallone's mansion. By the late 1990s, action movies were starting to change. The old-school muscle-bound heroes of the 1980s and early 1990s were now competing with new stars and fresh styles of filmmaking. But back then, the action movie legends were still around, and their names meant something. That's what made that night so special. It was a rare moment. When many of these famous people were in the same place at the same time, it was Sylvester Stallone's party. Stallone wasn't just the guy from Rocky and Rambo, he was also one of the biggest names in action movies, along with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Bruce Willis. Stallone's parties were known to bring together the biggest names in Hollywood, especially those from the action world. This night at Stallone's mansion was supposed to be a fun, casual get-together. It wasn't an official event or anything. It wasn't a business meeting, it was just a private party with famous people who had been fighting bad guys and blowing things up on screen for years. Steven Seagal showed up, too. For action movie fans, this lineup was like a dream come true. The stars of Die Hard, Terminator, Bloodsport, and Under Siege were all hanging out together. It was supposed to be a cool, peaceful evening with old rivals putting their differences aside. This was the real deal. No one thought that this night would finally bring years of quiet tension to the surface. For years, Steven Seagal had been making sneaky insults about Jean-Claude Van Damme. He had never said his name out loud in interviews, but everyone knew about the comments about ballet and actors pretending to know martial arts. The tension had been building like a slow fire, but at Stallone's party, it wasn't quiet anymore. According to people who were there, Seagal started running. The man made fun of Van Damme's background and asked if he was even a real fighter. This time, though, Van Damme was there and heard it. There were no whispers or secret interviews, it was face to face. Van Damme wasn't going to let it go any longer. For most of his career, Van Damme had ignored the insults, he let his movies do the talking. But that night, in front of the biggest names in action movies, Van Damme had enough. He stood up and challenged Seagal directly at the party, as it's been told by insiders and later. Van Damme basically told Seagal, "Let's go outside and settle this right now." It wasn't for show, it wasn't for cameras, it was personal. Van Damme wanted to settle it head-to-head, which is how martial artists do things. Everyone at the party could feel the change. What had begun as a fun Hollywood night became tense. It wasn't a scene from a movie, it was real life, and two of the biggest martial arts stars of that time were about to fight in Stallone's backyard. No one saw this coming. Steven Seagal, who is known for playing tough, unbeatable characters on screen, didn't accept the challenge. He didn't stand up, walk outside, or say, "Let's do it." Instead, he laughed it off and acted like fighting Van Damme wasn't important. Some people in the room thought he was trying to stay above it, while others thought he was caught off guard. Either way, it was clear that Seagal wasn't interested in fighting, but Van Damme wasn't done yet. They both ended up at the same nightclub on the same night. Van Damme approached Seagal again and said, "Let's settle this." This wasn't drunk talk or acting tough for the cameras, Van Damme was serious, and Seagal again said no. Twice in one night, Seagal backed out of a fight he had been teasing about for years. The story quickly spread in Hollywood, and everyone started talking about it. It wasn't just a rumor, it was a turning point in the history of action movies. Years later, Sylvester Stallone would confirm the event. Stallone told the story himself and made it clear that Van Damme was too strong and Seagal didn't want the fight. That meant a lot because he wasn't taking sides and was just telling what happened and how it affected their careers afterward. You'll want to hear how this rivalry affected the rest of their lives. The $20 million fight that never happened. By the early 2000s, the rivalry between Jean-Claude Van Damme and Steven Seagal had become Hollywood legend. Their careers had gone in different directions, but Van Damme was still. People had been waiting years for them to finally fight. Then one of the most surprising offers in Hollywood history came up, a real fight. Peter Guber, one of the most powerful producers in Hollywood and former chairman of Sony Pictures, came up with the idea. It wasn't for a movie or a press tour, it was for a real fight. Jean-Claude Van Damme and Steven Seagal had a real fight in front of everyone. There were no stunt doubles, scripts, or acting. The deal was huge, $20 million for Van Damme and $20 million for Seagal. That was a lot of money, even by Hollywood standards in the early 2000s. The Mirage in Las Vegas was chosen as the location for the fight, which was perfect for a big one. Vegas has been the site of some of the biggest boxing matches and UFC events in history. It was one of the biggest fights ever and could bring in millions of dollars from ticket sales, pay-per-view sponsorships, and media coverage. When the offer was made to Van Damme, his response was immediate and clear. "I said yes right away," Van Damme would later say. For Van Damme, this wasn't just about money, it was about respect. It was about finally ending years of Seagal's rude comments, ballet insults, hidden jabs, and 2 refusals at Stallone's party. Van Damme was ready to show the world what he could do. He showed in a controlled setting that he wasn't just a movie star, but a real fighter. But Seagal didn't say anything, nothing at all, not even a polite decline. Seagal never showed up to the table, never responded to the challenge, and pretty much disappeared when it came to the fight. It was like the offer didn't exist for him. It wasn't just about the 2 stars anymore, it was about Van Damme's reputation. To risk everything in front of millions of people, Seagal's silence spoke louder than any insult he'd ever said in an interview. What's interesting about this story is that no one knew about it when it happened. In the early 2000s, there weren't any YouTube channels breaking celebrity news every hour, and social media wasn't what it is now. This offer was mostly kept underground, and only a few people in Hollywood and martial arts knew about it. The truth didn't come out until 2023, when Van Damme talked about the proposed fight for the first time in an interview. He didn't sound angry or cocky, he just told it like it was. The fight was offered, he said yes right away, Seagal said nothing, and that was that. There was no drama or trash talk, just a missed chance for something historic that could have happened. As soon as Van Damme told the story, the martial arts world reacted quickly. Fans who grew up watching blood sport Kickboxer Under Siege and Hard to Kill took to forums and social media to talk about it. People started to wonder why Seagal didn't take the fight. Some thought it was fear. Seagal may have known that Van Damme's years of real fighting experience in karate, kickboxing, and full-contact tournaments were too much for him to handle. Others thought it was ego. Seagal didn't want to risk his carefully crafted image as an unbeatable martial arts master. He had spent years promoting himself as a deadly fighter trained in Aikido. What if he lost? Another idea was that Seagal might not have wanted to fight for sport. He might have thought it was beneath him or not worth the trouble, but Seagal himself never said anything, so no one really knew for sure. One of the most interesting things about this story is how Van Damme handled it. He didn't brag, he didn't go on a media tour attacking Seagal's character, he didn't make it into a circus. He just told the story, let the facts stand, and moved on. Van Damme wasn't after revenge or ego anymore, he was just telling the truth. If the fight had happened, it could have been one of the biggest martial arts events of the decade. Imagine 2 of the biggest action stars of their generation fighting in real life in front of the whole world. But it never happened, and the story of the missed opportunity only added to the legend of their rivalry. But even though the fight never happened, the story of these 2 legends wasn't over yet. For 30 years, Jean-Claude Van Damme and Steven Seagal's feud had been one of Hollywood's most talked about Cold Wars. Fans thought they knew how the story was going to end, 2 old action heroes living separate lives with unfinished business hanging in the air. But then, out of the blue, Damme posted a photo on Instagram that set the internet on fire. It wasn't a throwback, a movie poster, or even a photo shoot with fans or other famous people. It was just a recent picture of Jean-Claude Van Damme having dinner with Steven Seagal. Action movie fans couldn't believe it at first. Were their eyes deceiving them? Were they seeing two men who had been rivals for 30 years smiling at a dinner table together? It was real, and the caption below made it even stranger: "Thank you Steven and your family for the fantastic dinner. Big announcement coming soon." Within minutes, the caption went viral online. The biggest stars of 80s and 90s martial arts movies who were supposed to hate each other were now spotted having nice dinners together. Fans weren't sure what to think. Was this a real truce? Were they finally burying the hatchet? Was this the start of a movie collaboration? Or was there finally going to be a real fight? The mystery was wide open, and the action movie community was full of questions. It didn't take long for social media detectives to get to work. People looked at the picture like it was evidence from a crime scene. Was Van Damme's smile real or fake? Why did Steven Seagal have that emotionless, stone-faced look? Was that just his normal public appearance, or was there tension behind that stare? Then the theories started. The first group of fans were hopeful. They thought this was a well-planned move to announce a long-awaited project. This is it. They said they were going to finally fight or at least do a movie together. Some fans suggested a movie like The Expendables where. Another group of fans was skeptical. This smells fake, they said. Something about it felt too neat and staged. Where were the behind-the-scenes videos? Where was the video clip of them talking about their shared history or laughing together about the good old days? None of that existed. It was just a bunch of old action stars working together on one last big mission. The caption, "Big announcement coming soon," seemed more like bait than a celebration of a real friendship. The more people looked, the more questions they had. Why now, after decades of ignoring each other? Why at a personal dinner instead of an event or professional shoot? Nothing made sense, which only made the theories go even further. As the dust settled, people started to notice some troubling details about the whole thing. For starters, there was no handshake, no posed picture of the two holding hands as a sign of brotherhood or forgiveness. If this was really a reunion after years of tension, wouldn't they want to show that? Wouldn't that be the natural thing to do? There was also no real laughter in the picture. Van Damme looked polite, and Seagal looked passive. There was no smiling with teeth, and there was no personal warmth. It almost looked like two people were forced into a picture for the sake of. Fans even noticed that the picture was carefully cut. There were no clues about what was going on around them. There are no decorations or signs about the faces in the picture. Mood of the dinner, just two famous people sitting down together. The strange thing about the dinner was that it was Seagal's birthday. That might explain why the meeting happened, but it didn't explain why it became a public event all of a sudden on Van Damme's Instagram. It was Van Damme's post that made it famous. Before that, it was just a dinner with friends or co-workers. Why have a quiet dinner and then post it on Instagram? Make it an international headline, and then there was the caption, "Big announcement coming soon." Those 4 words kept people up at night wondering what was really going on. If it was a movie, why not just say it? If it was a real fight being talked about, why be vague? And if it was just dinner, why tease something that might not exist at all? The timing made it even more suspicious, after staying quiet about each other for so many years after the almost forgotten $20 million fight. After all the bad blood between them, this sudden cozy dinner didn't seem to make sense. It was almost like it was meant to get people interested in keeping the old rivalry alive in the public eye. As the days turned into weeks, no announcement came. The photo and caption stayed the same, and the mystery grew. Fans began to wonder if they had been tricked. Was this just a clever publicity stunt? Was it a real peace offering that fell through behind closed doors? Or were these two old stars trying to get one last bit of attention? One thing was for sure, the photo worked. It sparked interest, fans got excited, and Damme and Seagal started talking again after not having done so in years. Damme breaks his silence. For years, Jean-Claude Van Damme had mostly kept quiet about his long-running rivalry with Steven Seagal. Fans knew about the tension, they talked about the Stallone party incident and the $20 million fight that never happened, but Van Damme never fully admitted to what was going on. That changed in late 2023. There wasn't a big press event or dramatic social media video. Instead, there was a single, low-key interview with a European martial arts magazine. It was almost as if Van Damme was finally tired of carrying the weight of silence on his shoulders. During that interview, he finally said the words that broke the myth for good, "I am a fraud." Those 3 words hit harder than any punch thrown in any of their movies. It wasn't yelled or angry, it was calm, direct, and almost sad, but it told the whole truth about decades of rivalry, misunderstandings, and lies. Fans finally knew that the drama wasn't just about hurt feelings, it was about truth versus lies. The interview went viral on social media. News sites picked it up. Martial arts forums were full of reactions. Everyone wanted to know more, and Van Damme finally gave them answers. For a long time, the rivalry between Seagal and Van Damme had seemed like a normal rivalry. 2 Hollywood stars were competing for the same attention, but Van Damme made it clear that it was about more than that. It wasn't just who was a better actor, who had better fight scenes, or who sold more tickets. It was about respect for martial arts on a personal level. In the interview, Van Damme laid it all out plain, Seagal's lies were to blame. Seagal had been telling lies for years in interviews and behind the scenes. These have been now not innocent exaggerations, they have been large formidable claims, tales about mystery CIA missions, tales of preventing in covert operations remote places, claims that he became some sort of real lifestyle's lethal weapon who used martial arts in life or death conditions for governments round the world. Van Damme defined precisely why that him a lot. He had spent his early years combating in actual tournaments, training in complete contact kickboxing and stepping into earrings wherein real punches landed and actual fights have been gained or lost. His accidents have been real, his education become real, his combat career even though no longer long was valid, and Seagal Van Damme stated it simply, he's never fought in an actual match, no longer one, never stepped right into a real ring like I did. That assertion become like a hammer placing the very coronary heart of Seagal's tough guy reputation. Lovers of martial arts cinema had usually wondered how a good deal of Seagal's history became real and how much changed into just Hollywood storytelling. Van Damme spoke back that query without hesitation. Then he brought up the infamous $20 million Las Vegas combat. This wasn't something made up by way of fanatics or gossip websites. It changed into a real offer from producer Peter Guber. Van Damme explained that the deal was honest, $20 million for each of them, a fight held in one among the largest venues in Las Vegas, the Mirage, a full media event with cameras, press, insurance, the works, and most significantly a danger for each guys to again up their words with action. Van Damme's facet of the tale become easy, equal, provide for each people. I said yes, he didn't. For years humans had puzzled why that fight by no means befell. Now they knew. Van Damme had agreed, Seagal had unnoticed it. There was no comeback from that revelation. No one may want to spin it otherwise. The truth changed into now out there, and it wasn't going away. After addressing the lies and the combat that never came about, Van Damme ultimately mentioned the ordinary Instagram photo that had confused such a lot of enthusiasts in step with him. That dinner wasn't approximately making peace, signing a film deal, or eventually teaming up. It wasn't a truce, it changed into an observation. I wanted to peer if he had modified. Van Damme explained that dinner wasn't friendship, it became commentary. He pointed out how the dinner took place via mutual connections, and it regarded like a great opportunity to ultimately meet face to face without tension, without the Hollywood spotlight. But what Van Damme noticed that night did not impress him. He did not see boom, he failed to see humility. What he saw became the equal individual he had clashed with many years before, the identical ego, the equal distance, the identical man or woman pretending to be something he wasn't. And as for that caption, massive statement coming soon, Van Damme admitted that it was positioned there to stir interest. Maybe part of him wanted to peer if something true could come of it. Maybe he notioned there Maybe a few sort of fine resolution, but in the long run it caused nothing. There would be no huge movie, no long-awaited fight, no documentary, simply closure, just truth. In case you enjoyed this, make certain to love, subscribe and hit the bell so that you do not miss the subsequent video on Hollywood's largest at the back of the scenes testimonies.